What if I told you that one of the biggest questions around the Steelers' future isn't just about draft picks, schemes, or coordinators, but about a guy most of the league has already filed away as just a backup? Because that's really what we're asking here. Can Mason Rudolph, the afterthought, ever replace someone like Aaron Rodgers in terms of consistency and performance? Not the rings, not the MVPs, but the week-to-week trust. And beyond that, how much can he really contribute to the Steelers' future? Let's get one thing out of the way fast. Mason Rudolph is not Aaron Rodgers. That's not an insult, that's just reality. Rodgers is a walking Hall of Famer, one of the most naturally gifted quarterbacks the game has ever seen. His peak accuracy, his ability to manipulate defenses with his eyes, the way he turns broken plays into touchdowns, that's once-in-a-generation stuff. If you're asking, can Rudolph become that guy? The answer is no. And honestly, that's the wrong question. The real question is this: can Mason Rudolph give the Steelers a Rodgers-like level of stability for this team in this system with this roster? Can he be the kind of quarterback you don't have to worry about every Sunday? Not a superhero, but a constant. A grown-up in the huddle who doesn't implode, doesn't panic, and doesn't drag the rest of the team down. To answer that, you have to look at what Mason Rudolph has already shown when the lights were bright and everything was on the line. Think back to when he was thrown in at the end of a season where the offense looked dead. The team was flat, the fan base was frustrated, and it felt like the Steelers were just drifting toward another forgettable ending. Then Rudolph steps in and suddenly everything looks different. The ball comes out on time. The deep shots actually connect. Third downs don't feel like automatic punts. He didn't look like a kid trying to survive. He looked like a professional quarterback running an NFL offense. That stretch wasn't about stats on a graphic. It was about the feel of the game. You could see the sideline wake up. Receivers ran their routes a little sharper. The line blocked a little longer. The body language changed. For the first time in a long time, the Steelers' offense looked like it believed in the guy under center. That matters. Talent opens doors, but trust keeps you in the room. Now compare that to what made Aaron Rodgers special for so many years. Yes, he has the arm talent. Yes, he can make throws almost no one else can make. But what did his teammates always say? They talked about confidence, about knowing that as long as 12 was back there, they weren't out of the game. Rodgers gave his teams a feeling of control. He wasn't just a star, he was a stabilizer. When everything around him got chaotic, he stayed calm and lethal. Is Mason Rudolph at that level? No. But can he give the Steelers a smaller, more realistic version of that same feeling? A sense that, okay, we're not dead in the water with this guy. We can move the ball. We can execute the game plan. We're not doomed before kickoff. That's where the door cracks open. Rudolph's story in Pittsburgh is actually more impressive than it looks at first glance. He's been written off, benched, booed, and thrown into some brutal situations. He's taken nasty hits, dealt with controversy, sat behind other quarterbacks who were handed the job over him, and yet he kept showing up. That kind of mental toughness is not flashy, but it's exactly what you want in a quarterback who's supposed to bring consistency. Consistency isn't just about clean box scores. It's about being the same calm guy on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, whether you're 10-3 or 3-10. From a skill standpoint, Rudolph has tools. He's big. He can stand in the pocket and see the whole field. When his feet are right, he throws a beautiful deep ball. He's not a statue, but he's also not trying to be Lamar Jackson. He understands that his job is to distribute, not to play backyard hero ball every snap. If you give him a solid line, a run game, and receivers who can win their routes, he can run a timing-based offense that looks professional and efficient. Where he's been exposed in the past is exactly where elite guys like Rodgers separate themselves. Under pressure in muddy pockets when the first read is gone and the clock in your head has to be perfect. That's where Rudolph has looked hesitant at times, a beat late, or tempted into throws that turn into picks. That's the gap between a good backup and a reliable starter. And that's the hill he has to climb if he ever wants anyone to say, even with a straight face, yeah, he can be our Rodgers-type steady presence. So what about his future with the Steelers? How much can he realistically contribute? Here's the bold answer. If the Steelers truly commit to him in a defined role, he can be a lot more than just an emergency name on the depth chart. In one scenario, you keep him as one of the best backups in the league, the guy who can step in midseason and keep your playoff hopes alive. That alone is incredibly valuable. We've seen entire seasons collapse because a team didn't have a competent QB2. With Rudolph, the Steelers know exactly what they're getting. A grown man who already knows the culture, the expectations, and the weight of that logo on his helmet. That's worth real money and real security. In a bolder scenario, you give him a real shot to compete for QB1, not as a token camp arm, not as a bridge until we draft the next guy, but as a legitimate candidate. You build a game plan around what he does well: play action, intermediate routes, deep shots off protection, and you ask him to be efficient, not heroic. If he wins that battle, you could easily get 2, 3, even 4 seasons of steady, above-average play while the rest of the roster matures and stays intact. He'd never be Rodgers, but he wouldn't need to be. He'd just need to be good enough that the defense isn't wasted and the offense isn't constantly dragging the team into the mud. And here's the twist. If he actually strings together one full healthy season of that kind of play, not 3 games, not a month, but 17 weeks of "yep, that's our guy and he's solid," the entire narrative around him changes. You stop hearing career backup and start hearing late bloomer or underrated starter. We've seen it before with other quarterbacks who took time to figure it out. The league loves talent, but it respects production. If Rudolph stacks starts, wins games, and protects the football, nobody will care anymore about what he was supposed to be 5 years ago. So can Mason Rudolph replace Aaron Rodgers in the sense of being one of the greatest of all time? No, that throne is taken. But can he replace what Rodgers represents for a team, that sense of stability, that feeling that the offense is in grown-up hands, that your season isn't over because of the guy throwing the ball? If he gets the opportunity, protects the ball, and leans into who he is instead of trying to copy who he is, then yeah, there is a world where Mason Rudolph becomes exactly that for the Steelers. Not their Rodgers, but their rock. It all comes down to this: does Pittsburgh treat him like a temporary solution or like a serious piece of their future? Because the moment the organization fully believes in him, the conversation shifts from "can he" to "watch him."